You hear that sound? It's the first thing you hear when the sun starts to warm up those incredible red sandstone cliffs of the Cederberg. It just cuts right through that cool morning air. And as guides, you and I both know that every single sound out here tells a story. Today, we're going to learn exactly how to read it.
And that's our whole mission today. We are not just going to be listing off a bunch of birds. Nope. We're going to figure out the story they're telling so you can share that story with your guests. We're going to move beyond, hey, what bird is that, to why is that specific bird right here?
Okay, so here's the absolute key to the whole thing. The Cederberg isn't just one type of place. It's this spectacular meeting point, a real crossroads where completely different bird worlds literally collide. And that's the secret to its incredible diversity.
Just look at this. You've got these 4 totally different bird worlds all coming together in one place. You've got birds from the Cape mixing it up with these tough, hardy species from the dry Karoo. Then you've got the specialists, the ones that only live in the Fynbos. And on top of all that, the rugged dwellers of the high mountain peaks. It's this unique mix that makes birding in the Cederberg so rewarding.
So let's kick off our virtual safari right where your guests do, at the lodge. The story really begins the second they step out of their room in the morning. You know, the first birds your guests are probably going to meet are what I like to call the welcome committee. You've got the Bokmakierie, whose name literally comes from that iconic Bokmakierie call. I mean, that is the sound of the South African wilderness. And then there's the Karoo thrushes, always busy, hopping all over the grounds, not bothered by us at all.
Okay, from the lodge, we're going to follow the #1 rule of safari, right? Find the water. Because where there's water, there's always life. And for birding, it's no exception.
The dams and rivers around here are absolute hotspots. Seriously, this means you can pretty much guarantee your guests some really exciting sightings. Tell them to keep an eye on the reeds for the silhouette of a reed cormorant drying its wings, or look for that brilliant blue flash of a giant kingfisher diving for a fish. It's a highlight for sure.
All right, from that life-giving water, we're heading up. The story of the Cederberg just isn't complete until you explore the rocky, high-altitude terrain. This is where we find the true mountain specialists.
Way up high above the cliffs, you'll almost certainly see a pair of Verrose's eagles. And here's a great little tidbit for your guests. You can point out their local Afrikaans name, Wit Cross Arend, which means white cross eagle. It perfectly describes that amazing white cross you see on their backs when they soar overhead. But for a lot of birders, that magnificent eagle is just the opening act. The main event, the real prize of the Cederberg Mountains, is the Cape Rockjumper. This bird is shy, it's elusive, and there's a reason it was the 2021 Bird of the Year. So the big question is, how do you give your guests the best possible chance of seeing one?
Well, here's the secret. It's more about listening than looking. The absolute key is to learn its high-pitched, sort of chattering call. So when you're hiking on those big rocky slopes, just stop and listen. You will almost always hear the rockjumper before you see it. Your ears are your best tool for finding this one.
So think about it. We've gone from the lodge, down to the water, and way up into the mountains. Why does connecting these places matter so much when you're out there guiding?
Because you stop being just an identifier and you become an interpreter. You're not just saying, oh, that's a Cape Rockjumper. You're explaining that this incredible bird only lives on these rocky mountain slopes, in this specific Fynbos habitat. That makes the sighting so much more powerful. You're connecting the animal to its unique home.
Okay, let's stock up your toolkit with some quick, memorable facts that'll stick with your guests and, bust a few common myths along the way.
First one up, the gray tit. Now, the name is a total curveball. Your guests are going to be looking for some plain, boring gray bird, but you get to surprise them by pointing out this sharp, really striking black and white bird and say, believe it or not, despite the name, there's almost no gray on it.
Next up, the fairy flycatcher. Your guests might see this hyperactive little bird zipping around and just think, oh, another little brown bird. But this is where you can create a real wow moment. You can lean in and tell them it's not just a small bird, it is officially the smallest bird in all of southern Africa.
And how small are we talking? It weighs just 6 grams. 6. That's about the weight of a sugar packet. Now that's a fact your guests are going to remember and talk about long after they've gone home.
All right, let's do a quick rapid-fire round of some common questions you're definitely going to get so you have these smooth, confident answers ready to roll.
Okay, this one's a classic. Guests are always blown away by the big raptors. They will absolutely ask you about those eagles.
And your answer is simple, and it's packed with great info. Just say, great question. Those are Verose eagles.
They love nesting on these high cliffs, which is why we're seeing them here. If you look closely when one flies over, you might see that famous white cross on its back.
This happens all the time. Guests hear a strange sound in the bush and they try to connect it to something familiar, like a woodpecker.
And this is a perfect opportunity to reinforce a key bird. You can say, it could be, but listen again. That loud, ringing Bokmakierie you're hearing? That's actually the Bokmakierie. It's a beautiful, colorful bush shrike, and its call is one of the classic sounds of the Cederberg.
So, to wrap it all up, the Cederberg is a meeting point. It's a crossroads of different worlds. And by understanding the story in 3 simple chapters, the welcome committee at the lodge, the magnet of life down at the water, and those amazing specialists high up in the mountains, you transform from just being a guide into a true storyteller.
You've got the whole script, you know the characters, and you definitely know the setting. So the only question left is, now that you know the story, which chapter are you going to share with your guests tomorrow morning?